If I talk about it this one time, will you all stop asking? So I'm going to do something that I have vehemently resisted doing up to this point. That is, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who viewing numbers, the ratings. As a rule of thumb, I don't talk about TV show ratings. The simplest reason is that I don't care. And it's not that I don't care about whether or not a show I like does well. I care about it insofar as, are the ratings enough to keep it, on the air? But you can't judge that looking at episode by episode ratings. Honestly, there are times when a well-rated show will get canceled. There are times when a show with ratings that don't seem to justify anything at all will stay on the air forever. So, looking at the ratings rarely gives you a solid sense of whether something's going to stick around or not. So I watch for the renewal announcements and stuff like that. That's about the extent that I care about ratings. And if anybody is wondering why it seems odd that sometimes I talk about box office numbers, the reason for that is it's a lot easier for me to wrap my head and extrapolate a meaning out of box office numbers, because it's a lot easier for me with resources like Box Office Mojo to get the budgets for these films. And I know enough about box office returns to know the rules of thumb for what constitutes a movie breaking even and what constitutes something being profitable. So I can look at box office returns, and I know enough about them to be able to get something out of that. I don't know enough about how TV ratings work, and I don't care enough to find out. That is the primary reason why I don't talk about TV ratings in general. The reason I haven't talked about TV ratings for Doctor Who, specifically, especially this series, is partially because y'all kept asking. I was really getting resentful the number of times people were like, "You gonna talk about the ratings? You gonna talk about the ratings? You gonna talk about the ratings?" There was one guy I actually responded with, I gave him a one-word response. I said never, which was a little overly harsh, and I'm clearly now perjuring myself on that declaration, but here we go. Here's the thing, though. I wasn't going to talk about them until I looked at them. Because here's the thing. It's not just that people have been asking me to talk about the ratings. They've been asking with fairly specific wording, which is, are you going to talk about how the Doctor Who ratings are tanking? Or some variation of that. And enough people have been saying, it's one of those things that people just keep saying, and it shows up over and over and over again. And I'm starting to feel like a lot of people are just believing that because they're hearing it so much. And I didn't know either way because I didn't care. But I've actually now looked at the numbers. And I don't know if these people are looking at different numbers than I'm looking at. But no. So when I say I don't know if they're pulling numbers from a resource other than what I used Wikipedia, which, I understand the failings of Wikipedia, but it's for my purposes. I have no reason to doubt it. And so if they're literally just pulling numbers from somewhere else, I don't know what that is. But if they're looking at the numbers I'm looking at, I don't know how they're drawing that conclusion. So let me go over what those numbers are so that next time somebody brings up the ratings, I can point them to this video and then never have to talk about it again. So, couple of things as I get into this. I am not going to discuss at any point in this video why ratings were higher for some series, lower for some series, why they went up or down on any given episodes. I am not talking about any of that. I'm only dealing with the numbers, with the viewing numbers. That's it. No extrapolation. No, I think it dipped because of this. None of that. Second of all, when I do things like discuss averages of any given series, I am not counting the specials. So when I ran the numbers to find out the average of series, what would have been series 4. I didn't include the viewing numbers for Voyage of the Damned. So, realize that those are not part of it because they skew it severely, because the Christmas specials have always been higher rated than the series that buffet them on either side. So it skews things up in a way that wasn't helpful. I think that, this is British. This is UK rating numbers that I'm going with because that's what I could find. I tried to find a reliable source for like the BBC America ratings. And I couldn't find, or at least I couldn't find one that covered all the series. I found something that allowed me to look at Series 10 and Series 11, and just sort of looking off those and then comparing with the UK numbers. The actual raw number, way different, but the comparative of like average of Series 10 to average so far of Series 11 was about equivalent. So that leads me to believe, without having numbers to confirm it, that at the very least, US broadcast ratings have gone up and down in comparatively similar fashion to the British ones. So again, when I talk these numbers, only talking the British ratings. So all of that said, a lot of preamble, let's go. I've got notes. So at the time of recording, we've gotten as far as the episode, The Witchfinders airing. Confirmed final viewing numbers aren't out for that episode, so the numbers I'm going to give are only up through Kerblam. And before anyone says, well, how can you judge when the numbers for the series aren't out yet? Well, you know what? All you people who are asking for me had already come to the conclusion that the show is tanking. So if you're going to leap to conclusions, then you can't criticize me for not waiting. So I'm not bitter at doing this. I'm a little bitter. Okay, so let's get to this. Series 11, as of this recording, so first 7 episodes, and it would be incredibly unlikely and way out of character for not only this show, but really any show, to suddenly take a massive nosedive of significant proportions in its last 3 episodes of its series. But so far, the average for Series 11 is 8.47 million viewers. So that's the average. That is the highest viewing average of modern era Doctor Who. Period. Prior to this, the series with the highest average was Series 2 with 8.36. Now, there are 3 episodes left, and they are likely to bring that average down because they're not going to be higher than that. I would say this has a very good chance of coming in right around Series 2 by the time we wrap up. So it's going to be in the neighborhood. This is highest ratings the show's had since the revival. But let's get more specific. Let's talk how the show has been overall. So Series 1 started, average was around 8 million. Series 2 is the previous peak, 8.36 roughly. Series 3, 7.5. Series 4, about 8. Series 5, 7.75. Series 6, 7.5. Series 7, 7.5. Series 8, 7.25. Series 9, about 6. Series 10, about 5.5. So here's the other thing you need to realize. The average viewing numbers for a series of Doctor Who has been trending downwards since Series 5. So the last time they went up, as opposed to going down, again, for the average across the series, that was Series 3 to Series 4. That was the last time it went up. Since then, it has been dropping. Series over series, year over year. To the point that Series 10 was an all-time low, average-wise. 5.46 million average. And again, not going to talk about any possibilities as to why that may or may not have been the case. That's just the numbers. So not only is this average high for the series, it is an immediate reversal of a long-running trend of gradual declining. Now, if we look at Series 11 in a little bit more detail, a couple of things. So it's the lowest ratings so far this series, and that's about 7.46. That's higher than the highest episode number for Series 9 and Series 10. And even Series 8 only had 2 episodes that had ratings higher than the lowest rated episode of Series 11, which is Kerblam. Now, since Kerblam so far is the lowest rated series, again, as of time of recording, it's worth pointing out that the ratings have dropped episode over episode. They have been going down steadily. But also, it's worth pointing out, not precipitously. It was from 7.48 to 7.46 from the Demons of the Punjab to Kerblam. It was basically negligible. For all intents and purposes, it was flat. So while technically they have been going down, first of all, your premiere episode, and not just on Doctor Who, on almost any show, your premiere episode is almost always your highest rating. And it takes a very special kind of show to have that not be the case. Something has to like truly become a water cooler show, and the other thing is, even if that does happen, you're still gonna have your premiere, you're gonna dip, and maybe you'll come back up, or maybe you'll waver back and forth. Now, Doctor Who Series 11 has been dipping, but again, not nosediving, and its lowest rating, even with the decline, its lowest rating this series is still higher than the highest rating of the previous 2 series, and is among the top rated of the previous 3 series. This is not a nosedive, guys. If they were going to cancel based off viewing numbers, they would have canceled after Series 10. That was some weak numbers, certainly compared to what the show had been capable of before. So, anyone claiming to you that Series 11, that the numbers have tanked, ask them where they got those numbers from. Because again, I would like to know. Because the numbers that I've got, that is not the picture that's painted. If you want a comparative of a show that has had its numbers nosedive in its latest season, a show that I don't talk about, but let's just talk about it as a comparative, The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, from halfway through season 3 through the entirety of season 7, didn't have a single episode with ratings below 10 million viewers. Then, Series 8, they did have, actually most of them below 10, but still close to it. Series 9, current season, still airing, I think. Their highest rated episode for season 9, a little over 6 million. It is lower than the lowest rated episode of the previous season. That's a nosedive. When your highest rating is lower than the lowest rating you had the previous year. That is a precipitous drop. Doctor Who is literally the opposite of that. Because we're currently in the middle of a series where the lowest rated episode is higher than anything the previous 2 series had aired at all. So, again, people can and will still have their debates about what this means. Because I have no doubt that there will still be people who will go, well, people just tuned in this year for the novelty. You guys want to debate what it means, you can debate what it means. But what I can tell you is straight up, factually, Series 11 of Doctor Who is not a ratings disaster. It's a hit. And it's brought Doctor Who up to a much healthier standing than it's been in a long time. Now, I'll also use this as an opportunity to talk about and address in video form, because I've said this elsewhere, why I'm not going to bring up the rumor that Chibnall and or Jodie Whittaker are supposedly leaving either midway through or at the end of the next series. If that ever gets officially announced, I will absolutely talk about it. Right now, it's a rumor. It was a rumor published in one place with an unnamed source, and since then, it was just published in a bunch of other places that it got published somewhere. Though again, the one thing I will acknowledge is if people are saying every episode is lower rated than the previous one, yes, that is factual. But the raw numbers are still really high, and it has not been a nosedive drop. It has been what, at least when I looked at other quote-unquote successful TV series ratings just at a glance for comparisons for what you usually get for a decline, from premiere episode across a season, is not out of line with standard numbers. So that's it. This is me being done talking about Doctor Who viewing numbers. And the other thing is, like, even if I cared more, I would never talk about this stuff week over week. Because any up or down from one episode to the next episode doesn't mean anything. Like to anybody. Not even the people broadcasting it, making it. No, but that's like tracking the box office numbers from day to day and trying to figure out what that means. No. When the season's done, you can step back and maybe look at a pattern. But again, like I said, I personally don't know enough about how TV operation is done, especially in the UK, to feel comfortable extrapolating anything out of those numbers. But that's it. I'm done. No more. So don't ask me again. Not going to talk about it again. There you go. So that'll wrap up that one. Doctor Who viewing numbers. I think it's been a long time since I've made a video out of spite. I don't like doing that. I'll try not to do that too much. So, in any case, whatever your thoughts are, again, if you got a resource that I don't know about, let me know, or whatever else, and keep it respectful, please. Drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about a whole bunch of stuff you can do, such as like and subscribe. And there's a link down there for the Patreon if you feel like supporting me that way. You don't worry about it. Other links you can check out. You don't want to check out those? That's fine too. Because at the end of the day, folks, you are the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.